Okay, well, let's get started. Ciao, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Towering Above Trouble. There are two things that come to my mind when I think about the word trouble. First, avoiding it, and then preparing for it, and then finding solutions to prevent it. So today we'll hear from Erin Nickerson, seasoned industry manager in restoration for condominiums business primarily. And she sees those storms firsthand. And I hope she'll provide maybe some good help for you guys. So I want to cover some housekeeping tips real quick. Put your questions into the Q&A box, please, not the chat box. The chat box is for comments, and the sponsors will probably be putting their information in there of how to get a hold of them in the chat box. But if you have questions, please put them in Q&A. And then CAMs, please allow 2-3 weeks for your CEU credit to be posted. So that will be posted as soon as we get the list back to Erin and her team. So, all right, so let's get started. I want to start by introducing sponsors, and I will start with Vinteum. Vinteum is my wind beneath my wings. Today we have Amanda Janot. She is going to introduce the company. She is the International Head Marketing Manager. Amanda, tell us about yourself and the company.
Hi everyone, it's great seeing you. So we are Vinteum. We are a company of over 10 years that is specialized in community management, and we develop an all-in-one app and portal that helps board members from finances to amenity reservations to multi-channel communication. So based on that, we are also with a huge offer, which is a summer sale that will last until July 15. So we're going to send a link for you to subscribe. We are offering a couple of months free for annual and biannual um, uh, programs. So feel free to join and schedule your free demo. Thank you.
Peggy, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I just want to mention they are experts in providing websites for condominiums. If you have 25 units or more, it is the law. You have to have a website. An autonomous one separate from your management company is really the best. You can put a link onto their website to get you back over to your management company for anything you need to take care of, from payments, announcements, and so on. But anyway, they will help you with that. I do want to say thank you to the two Julias on today. Number one's been helping me for a while now. She is kind of managing the program. And Julia number two, welcome again. She is also marketing support. Next, I want to introduce Daniel Baum. He is the CEO and founder of COA Solutions, a very strong insurance brokerage for condominiums and HOAs, and today's moderator. Daniel, tell us about yourself and your company, please.
Thank you, Peggy. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. As Peggy said, my name is Daniel Baum. I'm the founder of COA Solutions. My job, very simply, is to help you and your communities find ways to save money on your commercial property and casualty insurance. It's now June, which means we're in hurricane season, technically. Even without any hurricanes showing up, as far as the insurance carriers are concerned, June 1st was when we entered into hurricane season, and that very much changes how they look at premiums, what type of pricing we're getting, and how aggressive they're being. Hopefully, all of you, if you had renewals prior to June 1st, saw reductions in your property premiums. I know I did for, I would say, 95% of my clients. If you didn't, maybe you should think about having somebody take a look at those policies, at least as you come to renewal, to make sure you're getting the best prices and you're going out to all markets. Markets are always changing, especially in spaces like the directors and officers market, liability market. There's always things going on. It's a great idea to stay informed, make sure you're keeping up with what's happening, and know how you guys should look for less expensive insurance. Again, if I can be of help to you, I offer a free consult, no strings attached, nothing to sign. Happy to do it at any time. I hope you enjoy the webinar today. We have a great speaker who has a tremendous amount of experience. I hope you get a lot out of this. And thank you very much for having me.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Okay, next I'm going to move along to the sponsors that are here today. So let's go with Bob Aleka. He's the Vice President of Community Associations for Faster.io. Bob, tell us about yourself and what you're doing at Faster.io.
Well, good afternoon, all. Thanks, Peggy. We've been providing fiber optic infrastructures for almost 20 years, building, maintaining, and managing for condos and HOAs. We provide internet to the condo and HOAs. We provide streaming TV now that you can take anywhere you go. We also provide VPNs for all the residents at no additional charge. Our back end is a data center. We have 4 data centers, Deerfield Beach, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta. So you're getting the backbone of a real true data center, security and reliability to your property. So if you're a small property that's maybe 15 units and above, please give me a call. I'll put my information in the chat and see how we can help your situation out with a better internet and streaming TV. Thank you. Thanks, Peggy.
Hey, you're welcome. And also honorable mention to his partner that does the marketing, Vice President of Marketing, Michael Zirin. You guys do a really good job. Next, I want to introduce Brian Rammel. Brian is with Serpico. Tell us about yourself, Brian, and what you're doing over there.
Thanks, Peggy. Thanks all the sponsors. Like Peggy said, we are Serpico. We're a general contractor. And little bit things that makes us a little bit different is the fact that we're very specialized. We do concrete restoration and pool deck restoration, as you can see by this lovely background behind me. We are located in South Florida in Pompano Beach, and we've been in business since 2016. So a lot of new GCs are coming into town. That's not necessarily the case for us. We have all of our own guys, and we're very excited to be here and sponsoring this webinar. Thank you so much, Peggy and Erin.
Okay, thanks, Brian. I have a few other sponsors I want to introduce. I'm going to start with Munyon Contractors. They are painting, waterproofing contractors all over the state of Florida, and very good at what they do. So if you need something, look on the sponsor sheet that I will send out following this webinar. Next, I want to introduce the president of City Quiet Windows and Doors is Ben Friedman. Does an excellent job also preparing, and he actually gives a class, which I'm hoping to have, on windows and doors for hurricane preparation and planning your milestone follow-up that you need to do. We also have the paving lady who is a sponsor, Dawn Miller. She is the business development manager, and they cover all the Tri-County areas, actually up into Martin County now, and do an outstanding job for any of your paving needs. And they're easily available again on the sponsor sheet. We also have Priscilla from Valcourt. They are general contractors doing restoration projects. And Priscilla's been with them a short time, but she's been in the business a long time. So if you need anything, please reach out to her off of the sponsor sheet. I also want to mention United Professional Engineering. The owner of UPE is actually the current reigning president for the Florida Structural Engineering Association. And he is very accomplished to the point that the governor actually asked him to be in on the initial evaluations of the Surfside incident going back a couple years ago. So very qualified, great staff. They have one office in West Palm Beach area, but he does cover the entire state. Okay, I also have Jamie Gelfand. She is a regional sales officer for First Citizens Bank. They are offering loans right now for milestone repairs, hurricane preparation, anything to do with banking. Please contact Jamie. Been in the industry a long time. actually 30 years as a property manager and now 10, 11 years now in banking. So she knows everything and how to take care of your services that you need. I also want to introduce Hafer Company. Hafer is a CPA firm. They have 4 offices around the state. The key contact there is Nicole Johnson. Nicole is a partner and also the operations manager, and a very reputable company for CPA service and also for auditing. Last but not least, I want to introduce Dahlia Anise. Dahlia is an attorney and a trusted leader in estate planning. She brings both legal and deep compassion to every client. She does not just create documents, she crafts customized plans that reflect your values, protect your loved ones, and secure your financial future. So, whether you are newly married, starting a family, building your wealth, or planning your golden years, Dahlia is there to help and control the future with some confidence and experience. So, with that, I'm going to turn this over to our moderator, Daniel Baum, to introduce our presenter.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peggy. So again, everyone, just a reminder of how we do these webinars. We ask that you put questions that you have along the way while Erin is speaking in the Q&A box specifically. The chat is just too difficult to monitor and keep up with the questions, and we want to make sure we answer everyone's questions to the best of our ability. Erin is a phenomenal presenter, having been able to listen to her in person recently at our live event that we had in Palm Beach just a few weeks ago. If you made it, I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you didn't, please look out for the next one. It was really a terrific event. We had some great speakers and tons of great information learned. A little bit about Erin. So Erin has been in the restoration field for 10 years now and has seen more than probably most of us, especially from the inside. She is the director of sales for Unlimited Restoration, which is a 24/7 emergency response company. She works very closely with property managers and boards to create disaster response plans and streamline restoration after storm events. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Erin. Erin, take it away.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Daniel. And thank you all for being here today. This is actually the first time that anybody will be seeing this presentation. So I appreciate you all taking the time in the next hour to sit with us and to learn something new. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You see everything, Daniel?
No, I don't see anything shared. We're still looking at faces.
All right. Let's go to this one.
Yeah, it says that you're sharing. There we go. Perfect. Okay, now if you just want to blow it up to full size. Yeah,
Here we go.
perfect. Ready to go.
Awesome. All right. So our class today is called Towering Over Trouble, and this is a preventative maintenance class for mid and high rise condominium, co-op, association managers, and boards. My name is Erin Nickerson. I'm currently the Director of Sales for Unlimited Restoration, and we are a licensed general contractor that specializes in emergency services. How I break it down is if it's on the inside of your building and doesn't belong there, I fix that. So during this course, this is a 1 hour CAM CEU credit. It is an OPP or an ELE. We are going to learn how to identify systems requiring routine maintenance, mitigate risks from neglect, and ensure compliance with Florida regulations. You should be able to gain actionable insights to enhance the property value and maintain operational excellence after this class. Some other of our learning objectives that the DBPR makes me put up there, and let's jump right in. So the importance of preventative maintenance really is to ensure the structural and operational integrity of your buildings. And when we're talking about vertical buildings, the building science that goes behind it is a lot more complex than working in a single family home, a townhouse, a 3-story condominium building, or a commercial property. It's important that we detect and address early signs of system failure and compromising by performing routine maintenance and really looking at more than ever. And it's kind of, I don't know, serendipitous, I guess, that today marks the anniversary of why all of these high-rise preventative measures from the state have come into place with the falling of Champlain Towers. Really, the importance of preventative maintenance is reducing that risk and liability, making sure that hazardous conditions like fire from faulty wiring, injury from structural integrity issues don't happen. It also is to protect the property from potential flooding, secondary damages, and for us in Florida, that's going to be mold or catastrophic system failures. Preventative maintenance also reduces the risk and liability of legal and financial exposure in Florida. And I think that this is something that Daniel can attest to. We are sue happy here, which drives up our premiums of our insurance coverages every single year. And we have to have more insurance coverage for those things now than we did 10 years ago when I first started in this industry. And really proactive inspections and timely repairs reduce the chance of catastrophic events. It still blows my mind to this day when I'm at a property having conversations with my board of directors and my property managers, and their roof needed to be repaired and replaced 2-3 years ago, and now they're just getting around to it because their insurance says you can't get insurance from us unless you replace your roof. The cost of that roof 3 years ago versus the cost of that roof today are two very different situations. Some other really, I guess that really rolls us into saving in long-term costs for preventative maintenance. This really makes a big difference when you're doing routine maintenance. It prevents those small issues from escalating into costly repairs. It breaks my heart when I walk into a condominium building and I see sliding glass doors popped up from the floor 4 to 5 inches. And it shows me that your post-tension cables have had water damage prolonged over time that wasn't gotten to in a timely fashion. Now you have a big PT cable repair as opposed to just having a small concrete repair instead. Savings in long-term costs also help stabilize budgets by reducing unplanned expenditures. So those special assessments that our board members hate doing to their memberships, those decrease when we have more proactive maintenance. Preventative maintenance also helps our properties, specifically here in the state of Florida, combat the challenges that are unique to us. We have high humidity and high salt air, which accelerates corrosion and mold growth. We have an exponential risk every year of hurricanes, requiring infrastructures to be rebuilt. And we have strict building codes. If we're in the Tri-County here, we have the most strict building codes. So that's Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. The rest of the state is a little bit farther along behind us with that. But with every good hurricane comes building code changes. So they're right around the corner for the rest of the state. Preventative maintenance also ensures buildings can withstand environmental stressors and meet legal requirements. Doesn't want to go to the next slide. There we go. The last side of the importance of preventative maintenance is to make sure that your property values are maintained and hopefully are increasing, and that your tenant and owner satisfaction stays high. CAMs that demonstrate diligence to their boards, insurers, and investors usually end up operating a much smoother property, and their longevity at that property stays higher. I'm going to show you why it's so important now to have a preventative maintenance system in place for when issues do occur.
From Okeechobee to West Palm, WPTV is listening and responding, investigating, asking questions.
Sorry, you have to see a little commercial first.
Journalists.
So this is one of the most recent large losses that occurred in Broward County. They did not have a proactive plan in place for when an issue happened. And as a result, they made the news, which is a whole nother class that we teach on another subject. But it's essential to have a,
My
oh,
work
it's not
stop
playing.
fall side.
I'm sorry, guys, this is not wanting to play. So essentially, this building is in downtown Las Olas, and they did not have a preventative maintenance plan in place, and they ended up making the news and displaced over 125 of their unit tenants. And they were on the bill, they were hooked on the bill because it was an apartment rental association. But if they had had a preventative or a proactive reactionary plan in place, they would not have had the malfunction that they had in the building. It disrupted every single floor and impacted multiple units that created a safety concern. Their fire life safety system went off and flooded from the 20th floor all the way down to the first floor. And they didn't have any consistent upkeep. So the small issue that started out on the 20th floor became a massive, massive insurance claim for the association. So it's important to talk about what key systems are involved in our preventative maintenance. And starting with the exterior of your building, we're going to work our way in. So the structural components really need to have routine inspections. How do you do that on a high-rise building? You consult with experts to get these things done. You want to look for cracks in load-bearing walls, beams, and floors, looking for evidence of water intrusion. And I see this one most commonly neglected in parking structure systems where the risers are continuously leaking over time, and we only really get around to it when they start leaking on multi-million-dollar vehicles or we have people complaining. Signs of facade and deterioration you should be looking for on a consistent basis: stucco failures, spalling, loose panels. And I challenge you as a board and as a property management team to put these things on what I call the June 1 list. Walk the exterior of your property, take photos and videos of any of these signs and symptoms you're seeing, and make sure you put it on the cloud. And most importantly, reach out to the industry experts to diagnose it further and give you a timeline of how long can we wait, how long can we not wait. Is this a structural or is this a beautification issue? One of the most common things we see for structural components is structural fatigue from age, weather, exposure, and most recently in our newer properties, design flaws that lead to 558 claims. What can you do in preventative actions? Schedule building envelope evaluations and make sure you're using the right contractors. You have some of those people on this call right now that would be happy to come out and take a look at your concrete. Call Brian to take a look at your painting. Make sure that you're really reaching out to the right people that do this all the time. Especially ask them for referrals. Brian, who have you worked with on the Galt Mile? Can you give me a referral? Can I call a board member or property manager that has done work with you in the past or your company in the past? Make sure you're proactive and making sure the right contractor is right for your building. The second thing we want to be looking at in preventative actions for the structural components are waterproofing and sealant replacement programs. That is getting with your contractor of choice, whether it's Benmore, Sherwin-Williams, your local rep, to come out there and say, okay, the paint that you have is good for X amount of years. You probably have this much left in your lifespan because you are on a barrier island, so we deteriorate faster due to those salt water and being by the ocean. What does that look like, and making sure that you're staying on top of that with the experts. The second key infrastructure component we're going to take a look at is HVAC systems. Critical maintenance that you need to be doing are filter replacements that maintain the indoor air quality system's efficiency. How I think of the HVAC system in your building is, if it was a person, it would be the lungs of the body. They're working 24/7 to keep you alive. And when that critical system goes down, there are secondary damages that will result in. Where we are located in South Florida, we are always trying to make sure that we don't have that dreaded M word, mold. Mold grows within 72 hours, depending on the conditions that are within your indoor spaces, 24 to 72 really. And it's important that if your system goes down, that you have something in place to maintain the relative humidity within your indoor airspace. We never want to see the relative humidity above 60%. Anything above 60% is conducive to mold growth. The second critical maintenance item we need to take care of is coil and duct cleaning, again, to prevent mold and allergens. It is just a good thing to do every once in a while, and we encourage your individual unit owners to do it in their condos as well. Seasonal servicing for chiller, cooling towers, and thermostats at a very bare minimum for association needs. We want to see quarterly maintenance on your HVACs and cooling towers. From an internal standpoint to your individual unit owners, we want to see a bi-yearly maintenance done by a licensed and insured HVAC contractor. There's nothing worse than having an unlicensed person in your building. I have a building in downtown West Palm. I hope they're not on this call. That had an unlicensed HVAC company come in and replace a unit. It was a unit owner that did it. And they used garden hoses to hook it up. A garden hose only holds 60 psi, and in order to get up to the 16th floor of this building, they needed 140 psi. So about 2.5 hours after they installed that HVAC, it ended up breaking and flooding the entire stack down to the first floor. So let's talk about risk and neglect of not maintaining this component. You'll have tenants complaining if your HVAC or cooling tower goes down because they're hot and it's South Florida and they can't live without the AC. Your system can overwork, which will reduce the life of the components that are being maintained. It can also result in high utility bills and or system failure. So best practices, we want service contracts with a certified HVAC and cooling tower provider. And you also have the option to use what's are called smart sensors or BMS integration for real-time monitoring. It's a little bit of a newer technology, but they're sensors that you place on the inside of your building and you can monitor the relative humidity within that indoor space. If you want more information on that one, let me know and I can send you an email after this. It's a pretty cool thing. Next, we are focusing on our plumbing systems. Really, this is pretty easy. Monitor for visible and hidden leaks. So if we're talking plumbing systems within your building, the first thing is you're going to ask me, well, Erin, there's drywall over the plumbing systems. How do we know if we're leaking or not? First, in your ARC packages, whenever anybody is going to be redoing their units, we want to make sure that somebody on our internal team does a visual assessment while those walls are open and people are doing renovations in units. It is a simple 10-15 minute task that you go in there and you photograph, but it allows you to get ahead of pipes that look like the ones on your screen from the water losses that I've handled for them. The second thing we're going to be checking for is the pipes that are exposed, looking at corrosion in the copper, looking at the galvanized pipes, and making sure that the drains are not blocked. So we're going to be using plumbers with scopes to look at our drains. One of the most common things that I see in condominium buildings, in commercial high-rise buildings, are our main lines not being cleaned out timely. And then we also see a lot of slow leaks which result in mold and flooding from those burst pipes. So any water lines that are your responsibility for maintaining, whether you are a homeowner on this call or a property manager, we want positive and proactive maintenance. So if you have a plastic water line, the lifespan usually is about 3 to 8 years, depending on the quality of that. We want to upgrade those to steel braided hoses or the ice maker line on the back of the refrigerator, upgrading to a better material than plastic. I think that one of the most common leaks that I see that in my world is the gift that keeps on giving is your dishwasher. The line on the back that feeds the dishwasher malfunctions and goes to the unit below. So it's these little preventative maintenance items that we can get in front of that will save you a lot of money over time. Annual inspections are great with camera scoping and backflow testing. Annual stack cleanouts are one of my biggest recommendations if you've had more than one backup in your building. And in most condominiums, that's going to be on the first and second floor where you're having a sewage backup. And I've seen it in showers. The toilet overflows from a backup. The most common one that people don't recognize are our kitchen sinks. If you think about it from a management standpoint, what are our unit owners putting down that sink? What are the contractors putting down the sinks and the toilets when they're redoing them? We just don't know. So the more preventative maintenance you can do on those items, the better. Um, Fixtures, and maintenance, when I think of fixtures, I actually I know someone's on this call that has had this issue. We had an original 1972 toilet tank on the 17th floor of a high-rise building on Singer Island. The toilet tank broke overnight and flooded from the 17th floor down to the first floor. Now, if you think that logic, so this, and it was green, that's the only reason I knew its original date, it had the manufacturer's label still on the back of it. If you think about that and apply that to every other appliance that's in your unit or association, how long is the lifespan of that product? And does it sound like a good idea to have a component from 1972 still working in our building? Think about your refrigerator, think about your washer dryer, think about the dishwasher inside of that unit. What does that life of that component look like? And should we be replacing it rather than waiting for a $50,000 flood from the 17th floor down to the first floor?
Hey, Erin,
Yeah.
question for you. I've been approached by vendors in the past wanting to discuss leak detection systems. How do you feel about leak detection systems in these types of buildings?
So twofold. There's an entire building, so an entire stack can be shut off by a leak detection system, and those are quite costly to do, but amazing technology. And then when I talk vertical or horizontals, that's going to be your unit owner usually responsibility. Everyone's documents are a little bit different, but for the vertical ones, there's a couple systems out there. Honeywell makes one that is inserted onto the main line that goes from the vertical into the horizontal, and it has a valve that will switch off if any of the sensors that are placed within the unit go off. I think that if I was a remote owner, that would be I would install that into my own condo. If I was there all the time at a very bare minimum, I would have water devices. We call them chirpers. When they get wet, they emit a very, very loud noise. Like if someone's in your common area hallway, they can't not hear it. But I would, no matter what, I'd have some sort of water detection devices inside of my unit if I lived in a condo. 100%.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
No problem. Some preventative measures. We talked about the annual inspections, annual stat cleanouts, fixture maintenance, which also includes toilets, faucets, valves. If you have a gate valve and you live in a condominium, we want to encourage you to switch them out to the ball valve. And the gate valve is that round one. It's either metal or plastic. If you haven't WD-40'd it every year, at least once a year, it probably doesn't turn. And the worst thing that happens in a water damage situation is that valve breaks off and the plumber has a really hard time turning that water off with a wrench. Also sealing, making sure that you are sealing around pipes, around the P-trap of the toilet when you are replacing the P-trap in the toilet, when you're replacing wax rings, that the toilet is properly installed. These are all small items in a plumbing system, but will make a large difference in prevention. Let's jump to your next component. That's going to be electrical. The preventative priorities for this one are load testing and panel inspections, which should be done by a licensed electrician. I see way too many times in our condominium buildings that my maintenance team are doing light electric. General rule of thumb is that if it requires a license, that licensed contractor should be the one doing it. I have a building in Broward County that rewired their gym in the ceiling, all of the lights, and they actually caused a fire in their own building because it was wired incorrectly, which means that they had no insurance coverage when they went to go file the claim for the damage because it was not done by a licensed contractor. So there are consequences to doing things in-house, and we just want to make sure that if you are doing things that require a license, that person is doing it. Because if they would have recouped funds from the carrier. And I think, Daniel, you want to comment on that one?
I can't reinforce that enough. Don't have just anyone do work in your community. You must have people that are licensed and insured and can verify the work they're doing. The worst thing you can do is bring in someone who's not, and then there's a problem thereafter, and you've just created a Pandora's box that is not going to be easy to unwind. So, and not to mention the risk that you take with non-licensed people working on your property and potentially them getting hurt while they're working on your property. There's so many issues that come up. And I tell clients all the time, even if you don't have, this is just a little bit of beneficial information for all of you board members and CAMs, even if you don't have employees who work for your association, for $500 a year, you can get a workman's comp policy. And people ask me, well, why do I need a workman's comp policy if I don't have any employees working for the association? And the answer is very simple. If you hire a licensed and insured contractor and they come in, but they bring in a sub who's not licensed and insured, and that happens pretty regularly, you'll find you won't know that they're bringing in a sub to do the work. And that sub gets injured on the job, they are going to sue you. They're going to sue the association. And the only thing that's going to protect you is that little $500 workman's comp policy that you took exactly for that reason. So if you don't have a workman's comp policy because you don't have employees of your association, make sure to ask your insurance agent about it. It's a no-brainer for $500 a year.
Agreed. The other side of the coin is when the individual unit owners are doing work within their unit and they are doing it themselves, or it's their mother, father, sister's brother, and they do your electrical incorrectly and they cause a fire in your unit, and then it affects your neighbors. So all of these things are important that unit owners understand that if you are doing work yourself and you cause damage to the property, you will be held responsible by the association. And I'm seeing a big shift, and I think you might be able to comment on this, from where we used to file a claim when a unit owner caused damage to the property. We are now having our attorneys go and act in subrogate against the responsible party that caused the damage, so it's not hitting our loss runs as much. Daniel?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe even more importantly than the concern about, who's going to have it on their loss run later is just your own liability. God forbid something happens, it's going to be on you. That if that situation took place, the liability is on you, and you are going to be personally sued, not only by your own community and association, by whoever was damaged by it. And God forbid it's something really detrimental, like a fire, and someone gets killed, you could potentially be looking at criminal charges. So definitely don't take this lightly. It is not a good idea to have people who are unlicensed work on anything for you, especially when you live in a community. I mean, it's one thing when you live in your own individual house and you decide to take on that risk on your own. I don't recommend it, but that's your prerogative. When you live amongst other people and they're going to potentially be affected by what you do, you're exposing yourself potentially to liability that you do not want to have.
Thanks, Daniel. Back to preventative maintenance for electrical. Checking for frayed wires, loose connections, and corrosion. I also have a lot of buildings out there right now that need to come up to building code. If you have aluminum wiring and something happens at your property where you need to come up to code, let's say you have a fire at your property, it is exceptionally expensive to rewire your entire building, which is why ordinance and law coverage, it's my favorite one. Daniel and I talk about it all the time. Ordinance and law coverage in your insurance policy. Please call him if you don't know what this is. It is basically like gap insurance, where you have your old electrical wiring. It covers a portion of the cost to get up to the current code. It's a really great coverage, especially if you're an older property. Talk to Daniel about that. Some other preventative priorities. We have lightning protection. Great for my high-rise buildings, especially on the beach or in intercoastal waterways. Consequences of inattention, blackouts, again, not having power, your system's failing. If you are an older building, especially my condominiums on the beach, a lot of times I see after a loss of power, our breakers need to be manually reset. That can cause a lot of damage if you have seasonal residences who don't have people looking after their units. I love a home watch service being required at your communities. And remember, at any time, you can put in rules or regulations into your documents. You do not need a quorum to put them in there. Rules and regulations are great. Other consequences of inattention, fire hazards. We've been talking a lot about fire, electrical that is exposed, that is corrodes, has the huge potential to cause fires. In my world, they're the most expensive type of emergency that you can have. You also can have expensive emergency repairs due to electrical, and secondary issues and damages like we spoke about before, mold. Recommended practices, consulting with an electrical engineer or an electrician to perform thermographic scans and scheduled breaker maintenance. And I can't say it enough, and I know Daniel wants to drill it home. Make sure you're using a licensed electrical contractor when you're doing electrical work. Next, life safety systems. Essential components, you're going to have your fire alarm systems, your sprinklers, your fire extinguishers, and your hose connections. This also includes emergency lighting in your common area hallways and properly lit exterior facilities. I've seen an increase in slip and falls from communities that don't have properly lit exteriors. I know Daniel will say he's got a lot of people that have sued before their associations because they are claiming there's not proper lighting. They tripped, they fell, the asphalt was in their way, whatever they're going to say. So the regulatory focus, you want an annual inspection per the NFPA and local fire code. Local fire code is going to differ from county to county and municipality to municipalities. There's some that are super strict, like the city of Boca Raton and the city of Juno Beach, and some like Pinellas County where it's a little bit more relaxed. So make sure that you're up to date on your local code. If you need assistance with that, we can give you some really great referrals to people that work in your area. Ongoing maintenance, we like monthly testing routines and documentation for compliance and audits. At a very bare minimum, you should be doing an annual inspection on all of these systems and making sure that they're in proper working order. There's nothing like you losing electricity in your building, your backup generator kicking on to power your emergency lights, and they don't turn on because all the bulbs are burnt out. Don't be that community.
Yeah, and Erin, when it comes to the fire systems, I had a community 12-story building in Hallandale Beach who unfortunately did not do preventative maintenance and regular checks of their fire sprinkler system, and a valve on the roof broke. And all of the water that was up there flooded down all 12 stories and affected 75% of the units in the building. um, you don't realize the potential risk that these older systems, especially if your building's 20 or 30 years old, these valves may not make it. And if they break and you have that kind of damage, it's a big headache to deal with. So just checking them annually, as Erin suggested, is a no-brainer. Just make sure somebody's paying attention to it. The other thing I'll say is, many times you'll have fire systems where the lights are flashing on the board and nobody's really paying attention to it. It's like, oh yeah, there's a light flashing, whatever. Those lights are there for a reason and to tell you something's not working properly. And the insurance companies pay attention to that, especially on a renewal. When they send in an inspector, they're going to go look at that board. And if the board's flashing lights they're going to make you comply with getting your fire system engineers out there to take a look at it and make sure any codes that are coming up are corrected, or they'll pull the insurance. They'll tell you that's part of the requirement, is making sure that system's in place. So it can get kind of, hairy when you're dealing with insurance and you're dealing with these problems. I can't reinforce what Erin just said enough. Regular inspections is super important, at the very least on an annual basis. If you can do it more frequently, more power to you, even better for you doing it. But definitely pay attention to these things, because this is where we find these issues come up and can be extremely costly for the community.
Absolutely. With the annual inspection, what goes along with that is the documentation. And we just spoke about how one of our biggest risks in Florida is storm season. And it's really not even just a hurricane, right? It is a Tuesday afternoon when we get 36 inches of rain, like we did 3 years ago in Fort Lauderdale, and you're not ready for hurricane season because it doesn't come till August, September, October on this coast. Having these preventative maintenance plans ahead of time will show the insurance carrier that your roof was in proper working order. You've had your structural integrity, your SIRS study done. You have 3 years left, 5 years left on your paint. Having all of these things in place is so important. Making sure that you're also with your teams performing regular routine checks to catch and resolve issues early. Maybe your manager is walking the property once a week, doing a roof inspection, an elevator room inspection, looking in your electrical rooms, making sure that anything that should stay under lock and key does. Our residents love to put their extra belongings into the electrical rooms, which is a fire hazard and carries a nice fine if code compliance decides to pop by your building. Working with experts and partners with reliable contractors is a must. You are a business. You are a business that needs to function like one using licensed and insured contractors. At a very bare minimum, we want a COI naming the association as an additional insured anytime anybody walks on your property. No exceptions. Going digital is one of the best things that you can probably do for yourself as an association. With all of the new requirements, we're going to get to those in a few more slides, so don't you worry. It has become increasingly important that we are more transparent in certain aspects than we've ever been. So using apps and software to track, document, and manage maintenance tasks are a great tool. I know a lot of people on this call probably use Building Link or a proprietary software of the management company, but having a place where we can report work orders, make sure that our maintenance logs are living in a digital place. That way, God forbid, if we get a category 3, a category 5 storm that rolls through your condo building and takes out your office, everything is stored someplace else. And be ready. Have your emergency contractors on call 24/7 and have pre-negotiated pricing mapped out so you know that you're going to get the best rate because you're giving this contractor business on a consistent basis and there's a protocol and a system in place when something happens. So, legal and regulatory compliance in Florida. And I updated this yesterday to make sure that we were on point for this class. So it's so important that you guys are staying up to date. The governor is about to sign off on a whole bunch of new bills. There are classes out there that you can take to stay updated on those bills and stay informed. CAI is also another great option. We have local chapters here there's the CAI Southeast chapter, which covers Key West to Deerfield Beach. There's the Gold Coast chapter that covers from Boca Raton up to Vero Beach. And if you're in any other part of the state of Florida, I'd be happy to get you in front of those chapters as well. They are putting out consistent information on a daily basis as to the legal changes from Don Bauman, the now president. So please, that is a great resource for all of you to be in touch with. So staying in front of your Florida building codes and how those are changing. And CAMs, you have a more increased role than you've ever had in making sure that buildings are in compliance and up to date on all the new code changes. Record keeping and reporting has become an even bigger importance now with the access that everybody has working from home, reporting to the DBPR. It's important that you maintain proper and accurate records. And if you need to, really consult with your attorney on what should be in meeting minutes, what should not be, what constitutes as an official record. Making sure you understand that as a board member and what your manager has to stay in compliance with for you. It's essential for audits, not only legal protection, but regulatory verification when you do get those complaints from the DBPR. So now let's go into compliance in Florida. We now have the milestone in structural inspections. These are for over 3-story buildings. Most of you, I hope, are already getting your way through this. Moving along to the fire life safety retrofitting for high-rise condominiums, you must install an automatic fire sprinkler system or an ELSS system. The key deadlines here in making sure you're in compliance, you had to have a decision by some type of January 1st, 24, a submission by January 1st, 25. Your permit application must be in by January 1st, 26, and installation completed by January 1st, 27. Now, this could change if the governor decides to do something. So please, like I said, make sure you stay informed with what's happening and up to date. Your attorneys should also be pushing out an update once the governor signs off on all of the new regulations. If they are not, we can get you to somebody that is. Reserve funding requirements. Condominiums must conduct regular reserve studies, maintain sufficient reserves for major repairs, for their structural integrity, and waiving of reserves funding is no longer permitted after this year. Let's talk about elevators next, my favorite thing. The elevator is the most expensive component in your building when you have a water damage incident. So making sure that it's up and into compliance with these things is going to be really important. If you are not in compliance currently with the Florida state regulation that you see on your screen, you will have to upgrade, and it's mandatory to get to this code to get them back online after you have an emergency. So the requirement for the door lock monitoring system, the deadline is August 1st of this year, 2025, and that applies to all existing automatic elevators. The emergency braking system requirement, traction elevators must have an emergency brake, and in addition to the main machine brake, compliance is August 1, 2028, and all traction elevators that applies to. They all must have two-way communication systems. The requirement is elevators must have two-way communication systems, including text-based messaging and video capabilities for emergency situations. The applicability is new and modernized elevators permitted after January 1, 2024. I would anticipate that could apply at some point to all elevators, but stay tuned on that. It's not yet. And that is all I have as far as the systems in our buildings. I guess now we will go to the Q&A.
Yeah, I don't see except for someone who asked what building was affected in the downtown Las Olas video that glitched on you. I don't know if you want to answer that.
If you Google downtown Las Olas apartment building, water loss, it'll come up. It's a pretty big deal.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any specific questions, please go ahead and put them in that Q&A box now. I don't see anyone at the moment. There was a bunch of questions about whether or not we'll provide the slides to the audience.
Sure.
Yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
so Erin will do that afterwards. And I know Peggy always sends out a video recording of the webinar after the fact, so you'd be able to watch it again later on.
So we did have one question on here.
Yeah.
Where did we say we should check to stay up to date for building code changes? So your building codes are going to be to the local municipality that your property is located in. If you're looking for legal updates that the state of Florida is changing, that a good resource is for CAI, the Community Association Institute. And most of you are going to your local chapter, again, from Key West to Deerfield Beach is going to be the CAI Southeast chapter. And if you're from Boca Raton to Vero Beach, you're going to be the CAI Gold Coast chapter. I happen to be the current Gold Coast board president, so if you'd like more information, please feel free to email me. I'd be happy to get you started in membership and get you to a CAI event.
Erin, another question just popped up. It's not specifically related to your topic, but does a two-story condominium need to have a milestone structural inspection?
It is not required. It is a best practice to follow. I would recommend that you follow some type of reserve study schedule for all the components that you're responsible for maintaining as a condominium association. So the structural integrity of your building, which would consist of your roof, your HVACs that the association is responsible for maintaining, not the individual unit owner, the structure, so the exterior of the building, the paint. Some associations have a little bit of skin in the game when it comes to windows and doors, but that's going to be association specific. And then any other component that feeds the association, so your plumbing systems would also be your verticals would be your responsibility to make sure they're properly maintained. And the more that you stick to the plan in reserving, the better fiduciarity of your association you're going to be. The financial risk isn't going to be there for the special assessments. It minimizes a lot of headaches to follow that program.
I'm going to take this question, just protect Erin here. Karen, you asked whether or not changes to rules and regulations need a quorum. I'm just going to say consult with your attorney. We can't give legal advice with these webinars, and we want to be careful that we don't. So even though we know the answer, we were going to recommend you just speak to your attorney about it and not ask us that question. Erin, somebody asks about the leak inspection company. I don't know if that was they're intending to say. Jeremy, were you intending to say the leak inspection company info or detection info?
So if we're talking about looking at the cast iron pipes in your building to make sure that they're in good shape, like you saw those, the cracking cast iron pipes, those are literally, I opened the wall and that what was there because it was leaking into a unit. So to do that detection, you're going to want to consult with either a plumber or a pipelining company. Pipelining companies usually do it at a nominal fee because they want your business for the actual big pipelining vertical project. So those would be the two resources that you could turn to. If you need recommendations from people that have done good work, I'd be happy to get you that information.
Perfect.
Oh, I like
Mason,
Mason's question.
yeah, again, Mason, I like to protect our speakers. They're amazingly informative, and they go through so many. I mean, we listen to so many of these presentations on a regular basis that I feel like we can answer 99% of the questions you guys ask, but we really have to be careful that we don't give legal advice and that you get guidance from an attorney and not from someone who doesn't, have a license. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest to Erin that we not answer recourse questions if you don't have an inspection or things like that, but that you consult your attorney on that.
Yeah, so the question was, what recourse does an association have if a unit owner denies an inspection? Most importantly, in that situation, you need to make sure that you're asking for the inspection correctly. And that's where you're going to seek advice from your legal counsel. What I've seen a lot of legal counsel do is to have a blanket statement for when people, for like a bug inspection, having a blanket statement that's an opinion and giving that to the client saying, use this for this situation, having a blanket statement on how to deal with a water loss because it's an emergency. You can ask for that from your attorney. That way, you don't have to do it every single time. But most importantly, you need to ask for the inspection correctly and utilize legal counsel to do so.
Awesome. So one more thing I just want to touch on, because this comes up pretty much every webinar we do. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you'd like to get your continuing education credit for having been part of this webinar. And if you stayed on for this duration, you certainly are entitled to it. Please note that neither Peggy nor myself are involved in this. This is something Erin will do when we finish. And Erin, if you want to touch upon what expectations people can have, because I'll get, several emails this afternoon asking for the credit. I just want to set everyone's expectations in advance.
Sure. So once I receive the list from this webinar, Peggy usually gets to me 24, 48 hours from today. I will file it the same day that I receive it, and you'll see it. Usually the DBPR is about 24, 48 hours after I file your credit. So today is Tuesday. I would expect that you probably will see them by Monday, Tuesday of next week.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please just do us a favor and hold off until Monday or Tuesday of next week, and then check your account to see that you will receive that credit. You do not get issued certificates per se. You will not be getting something in the mail. It will simply be credit on your account through the DBPR. So please go look for it there. And then if you don't see it by, say, Tuesday of next week, certainly shoot us a note and we'll make sure it's taken care of. Peggy, over to you.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make a comment about getting your annual inspections. If you go into any sort of a contract, be sure and have your attorney look it over just to get a blessing on any contract, actually. But some promise more than others, so just be careful with that. I just want to comment that I think what I heard is don't be penny foolish about your preventative maintenance. Yes, it's going to cost you a little bit to get inspections, but those few dollars invested early may save you a lot of dollars, at the very end. So thank you, Erin. Great presentation. I appreciate giving me the debut. And
Yeah, well done,
also,
Erin.
well
Thank you. I
done.
appreciate it. Thank you all for your positive comments.
Yes, it takes a lot of time to put this together if everyone isn't aware. Daniel, thank you also for taking your time out to monitor, and your experience adds a lot. Thank you to the sponsors, but I also want to commend all of the people on the call. We had 134 at one point, which I thought was awesome. This is for both CAMs and board members. And I will send out, as they've been commenting, the recording and the slides. I want to mention a few upcoming webinars if you want to mark your calendars. June 26th, I have Dahlia Anise coming back for wills, trust, and incapacity planning. On June 30th, we have Vinteum, our Wind Beneath My Wings here software. They're going to be speaking on going digital, as Erin encourages everybody, and communication and the importance of it. So be sure and join us on June 30th. July the 10th, I have a new Spanish class coming out by Karen's Engineering. This is something that's been asked for a couple years now, and we're going to attempt to do a Spanish class. On July 17th, I have Will Simmons coming in from Association Reserves. He's going to go over the Sears, especially on what you need to know for your reserve studies. August 21st, jumping ahead a little bit, I'll have some classes in between, but they're not tightened up. But Hafer Company is going to do a panel. This is going to be on finances, so mark your calendars for that. It's going to be very informative, and you'll be coming in or out of budget season. We got a legal update coming from Jane Boland, and more board of directors certifications, closing out the year. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Peggy, real quick, just if I may, and everyone, if you have not been in touch with a restoration company at this point to make sure you are on their emergency list, please, please, please do it. Erin, I don't know if you have any room left on your list, but communities, you should all understand that restoration companies have a free service typically that they will put you on an emergency response list if we have a massive hurricane, that you're one of the first that they go out to. But if you're not on their list, you may not be able to get anyone on the phone to respond. So before we let her go, Erin, I don't know if you have any room left. Maybe you want to tell our audience how they can get on your list if they're not already.
Absolutely. We do still have capacity in our, I call it the glass ceiling, right? Because everybody has one. We have what's called the URI Emergency Response Program. Basically, in a nutshell, it is a free program where we come out and we document your property, make sure that you're the right fit for us, we are the right fit for you for hurricane season. I create a custom app at no charge to you with all of the information that we just really spoke about, your equipment, what I need as a contractor to service you post-storm, what you need to do, and how we really work together at being the best partner. We also have pre-negotiated pricing that is really important and probably the most important part of an emergency response agreement. Whether it's me or another company, you need to know what you're paying prior to a storm hitting us, because how much does a sheet of drywall cost after a storm? Can you even find one? That's the same with a restoration contractor. So make sure that you're properly vetting, you're asking for licenses, insurance, the pre-negotiated contract, and most importantly, where do I fall on your list? Am I at the top because I'm giving you all of my floods, my water, my mold that's happening at the property? Or are you only relying on me for hurricane season? There's a big difference of who goes first and who goes last.
Yeah, and Erin, I don't know if it was you who said this. Correct me if I'm mistaken, please. But I recall, it might have been Steve from Altieri saying that we have something like only 24 hours or so worth of equipment that's available after a hurricane. And after that time, that's basically everything we have. Am I saying that correctly? Do you remember?
So that was Steve.
Okay.
So basically, if we are hit with a widespread disaster, and that would be like Hurricane Ian 3 years ago, most recently last year, St. Pete, Tampa was hit with two hurricanes during 2 weeks. Most of the time, equipment runs out fairly quickly. Unlike most companies, in my company, we are a regional size company, so we have asset not only in the state of Florida, but also outside of the state of Florida. So we do have a glass ceiling like any other company, but you do have a larger capacity with myself as your restoration provider.
Cool. Well, also really good information to know. A lot of people are unaware of that, and I'm trying to do everything I can to make sure our clients are prepared in advance so that it's not a surprise. God forbid they should get hit with a catastrophe.
As a condominium, my biggest word of advice, if we do end up getting hit with a storm, wherever your property is located, make sure you're working with a contractor who understands condominium living and Florida state statute. Last year, I saw way too many condos, specifically in St. Pete Beach, contracting with a contractor from Wyoming, Idaho, Chicago. It just, they don't care, they don't know. And if you ask them to separate a bill after the storm, they're going to look at you and be like, no, pay my bill or I'm leaning your property. So make sure that you're working with a contractor who specializes in condominium. If you're a co-op, that they understand co-op and the differences in your lessor and lessee agreements. Have those conversations prior to the storm happening. You don't want to be using people that you don't know in a storm situation.
Yeah, and to steal another line from Steve, too bad he's not on here. I'm sure he'd love the credit. But to steal another line from Steve, he said that if a photo is worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000,000. And what do I mean by that? Especially from an insurance standpoint, the insurance carriers love to deny claims because of pre-existing damage. We want to make sure we don't give them a reason to say that there was pre-existing damage. So if you get alerted to a storm coming, whether it's even the smallest of tropical storms, go outside, take photos, take video, make sure you're documenting it so you have a timestamp of when you did that. And then after a potential storm, do it again, so that you can clearly indicate what was there before and what was there after, and make sure that you get compensated appropriately. I think that's kind of the last thought I just want to leave you with before, since we're on this topic today.
Great one. And I'd be happy to send an email to everybody on the call separately from your course credit being filed with all the information we have from URI, along with some hurricane guides, preparedness, water intrusion guides.
Yeah, all information is good. It's always, I mean, I thought our in-person seminar that we had was really fantastic, especially hearing from Palm Beach County Emergency Management. That was really terrific speaker. I thought the panel offered a lot of insightful information from many, many years of experience, and explaining to our communities what they can do to take preventative measures, what to do after the case, how to finance these things. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we did it a little bit late in the year because it was in June. We're going to try to do that again, maybe a little bit earlier so that our snowbirds can be here too. Please, please, please take advantage of these free seminars and webinars to educate yourselves so that you are ready if, God forbid, we should run into these situations. That's it for me. I'll turn it to Peggy and mute myself.
Yes, you are muted. No, thank you so much. That's about it. I do want to say that I do have it tentatively scheduled to bring Mary Blakeney back from the Palm Beach Emergency Management Team, and most of the group on the panel in person is going to come back also. So we'll be doing that virtually because I think it covers not just Palm Beach County. It was great information for the entire state. That's it for me. Thank you so much. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.